In this video, I'm going to share with you 18 truths I have learned in the short time it took me to climb from Bronze to Grandmaster in Marvel Rivals Season 1, and how these tips can help you make it to Grandmaster as well. My name is 8-Bit, and this is my record here. Stick around to the end for my most advanced tips. Now, let's go. First, take the time to learn the map so that you can know your corners and lines of sight. No matter what character you're playing, you need to have the best angle you can when engaging the other team. I see this mistake a lot with DPS players, particularly those who run up the middle of a lane on the map and get wrecked instantly every time because they fail to understand the nuances of the map and are unable to create opportunities for angle advantages when it comes to elevation or corners. This is just going to take repetition and quick play as you'll start to learn what works for you and, more importantly, where your competitors are most likely to strike you from. Next up, learn team comps and which characters counter other characters. There's nothing I find more annoying in this game than when people choose their favorite hero because they like that hero the best, or maybe that's the only character they're really good with, and they end up being destroyed by another team who has characters that can easily outmaneuver or target that hero. I'll give you an example. Let's say you love playing Iron Man and that's your favorite character, but the other team switches to players that can hit scan like Hela, Luna, or Punisher, and proceed to shoot you out of the sky the moment you fly into the battle over and over again. If this happens, switch immediately. Conversely, I've also played matches when the other team has an Iron Man who is destroying us the whole match because our DPS players on our team are using characters with projectile shots like Squirrel Girl and struggle to shoot down Iron Man or Storm. So they decide to ignore them the whole time and we get obliterated in the match. Always be thinking of how you can have an advantage over the other team. This leads me to my next tip, which is to cross-train on multiple characters so that you can quickly switch during a match to counter a specific rival player that is giving your team a lot of problems. As someone who plays a strategist most of the time, I will rely on Mantis if the team needs more DPS, or switch to Cloak and Dagger if the team needs quicker burst healing. The more different and unique the playstyles of the characters you could switch to, the better. For example, I recommend learning a great dive character like Spider-Man, Black Panther, Iron Fist, or Magic, as in introducing one of those characters during the middle of a match can really throw the other team off if you have struggled to that point. On my team, our ace in the hole is Mr. Fantastic. One of my teammates is downright nasty with him and just cannot be eliminated as he continuously torments the backline healers on the rival team. It's important not only to cross-train with characters in your own class, but to be able to play characters in other classes as well. My main character is Cloak and Dagger, and I play as a strategist on almost every match if I can. However, in some matches, there are other people in the lobby that really want to play either Cloak and Dagger themselves, or they want to play strategist, leaving me with the option of Vanguard or Duelist. So I need to be proficient with at least a few of those characters and playstyles as well. If you solo queue or you queue with at least just one other person, you will be matched up obviously with a lot of random players. I find it best to let the other players choose their best roles and characters first, and for you to be the most versatile player. This is important because if your team gets to play their best characters as their first choice, they are more likely to play a better match and not be tilted because you wouldn't let them play the character they originally wanted to play. I see a lot of selfishness with Marvel Rivals where people hardlock their favorite character over and over again. If you do this in ranked, I can almost guarantee you will be locked in lower medal levels. Be a better and more versatile player. Be gracious and generous. This may sound cliche and it goes without saying, but communication is key. However, it is the type of communication that is actually the most important. You need to be able to talk to your team and listen to them on the following things. 1. Which characters and players are giving them the most trouble at that moment. 2. When your ults are ready. And then 3, most importantly, being able to predict when the other team is going to be using their ultimate abilities. The best teams combine their ultimate power plays in order to win a battle and greatly push their momentum in the match. Everyone on your team is going to have different perspectives and viewpoints on what's happening in the match at all times, and all of you need to continuously calibrate and talk to each other on what the play from the rival team is most likely going to happen next. Ping the characters that you want to have eliminated first. If you ping someone diving, for example, the monkey brain will most likely take over in the minds of the rest of your team, and people will tend to focus on and attack the character that you have pinged. It's just natural and human nature. Now let's get into some gameplay tips I have found to be helpful to climb to Grandmaster. You need to master your cooldowns with the character you are playing. New and inexperienced players will go into a fight and blow all of their cooldowns instantly and then usually lose the battle. I advise being patient. For example, a very skilled Thor will come into a battle, use Awakening Rune, which is his most powerful ability, then escaping the fray with Storm Surge so that Awakening Rune can recharge while in safety. He'll get healed and then charge back in the battle in the other team's back line again. If you're playing a strategist, save your best cooldowns for when other players dive into your sights so that you can win the battle or escape. Chain your cooldowns when you push. For example, Doctor Strange players will attack, melee, shield, attack, melee, then release their Maelstrom of Madness for easy eliminations on squishies. My next tip is to pay attention to how many players on your team are in the battle at all times. If you lose half or more of your team and you feel like the battle is not going to be won, it's best to retreat safely if you can and reset. This means you wait for your other teammates to respawn, allow your cooldowns to recharge, and then jump back into the battle together as a team. One of the biggest guarantees for a match defeat is when players do not understand this concept. For example, if everyone on the team gets wiped except for a strategist, and then the strategist stays alive in the battle for 10 or more seconds and then gets eliminated, by the time they respawn, the rest of the team's already respawned and has returned to the battle minus one strategist. Also, while I'm on the subject, do not push without the rest of your team being present. I know it's tempting to go get an elimination with the other team when they're retreating, but a lot of the time in an advanced competitive matches, if you do this, you will run into someone else who has respawned, or perhaps the person you are chasing down for the elimination is more skillful than you and will eliminate you. Our team has watched helplessly multiple times when the battle is won and our sixth person, for some reason, usually a dive player without a mic, is near the rival team's spawn point and all of a sudden gets eliminated. Don't be that guy. This is called being staggered, and you never want this to happen to your team in a match. If you are the last survivor of your team, escape if you can, or just charge in and get eliminated as quickly as you can so that you can respawn with the rest of your team. Another crucial gameplay tip, and it's probably worthy of an entire video itself, is how to handle divers. Learn how to avoid or defeat them. In the upper ranks, you're going to have non-stop divers that are going to wreak havoc with your team, especially if you're like me who plays a strategist and you are continuously targeted over and over again. There are two great ways to avoid the tragedy from divers. One is to have a teammate play Namor or Punisher and play further back to help you fight off divers. I've had many matches where the other team bans Namor, and when that happens, you know you're in for a nightmare match filled with divers pestering you or your healers. The other great tactic to lessen the threat of divers is to tighten up your team so that as a strategist you are closer to your front line, so your vanguards can easily peel back and help you fight off dive characters. We have won many competitive matches once we got locked into how to deal with a certain character or two diving over and over again. When that is the only trick they know how to do, we overcome that challenge and win the match because those players do not change their tactics or characters. My next tip may not be the most fun, but it's crucial to understand what is happening in your matches from all angles. In matches at higher levels, watch replays of your matches, especially ones where you did extremely well and ones where your team got completely obliterated the entire match. I find I gain a new perspective when I can see what my teammates were doing the entire match, and it becomes easier for me to spot what areas we need to improve and in which gaps we need to fill. I also love that I can see what the rival players are doing and learn from their successful strategies and tactics. I have two other players that I regularly play with, and we all share our observations together by watching replays of the extremes of these insane matches. This reminds me of my next tip. Find 1 to 3 other players you can regularly play ranked together. There are a lot of videos on how to advance to Grandmaster by solo queuing, but I highly recommend you avoid solo queuing. Why? Because it's a mixed bag on who you would end up with, and I find most of the time the players you end up with are the ones making many of the mistakes that I have been talking about in this video so far, over and over again. The 2 other players on my team will usually play 2 vanguards. They mainly like to play Doctor Strange and Magneto, however they will play duelists and dive vanguards like Captain America on the fly, while I generally stick to a strategist like Cloak and Dagger. Sometimes if we have a great match, we will pick up one of the other players on the team to round out our team as a duelist. The game will not allow you to queue as 5 players, and if we have a full team of 6 players, we end up being matched against other stacks of 6 players who are extremely sweaty and most often match and exceed our advantages of skills and communication. Queuing and ranked as a team of 3 or maybe 4 players maximum ensures that there will probably be more random players on the other team who are not using microphones or communicating in any manner, which gives us the advantage in the match. If you want to attract more teammates, let people play their best characters and have the highest chance of influencing a winning outcome of a match. To rank up quicker, I highly recommend playing a strategist. The ability to keep your team alive and healed makes all the difference in the game. A lot of players avoid playing as strategists because they would rather do damage than heal, but if you really want to rank up quickly, get good at healing. Furthermore, strategists have the best ults in the game that can change the tide of the battle immediately. This is why I see Cloak and Dagger and Luna getting banned more often at higher level matches. In my experience as a Cloak and Dagger main, I find myself having to switch to Luna or Mantis because Cloak and Dagger gets banned pretty often, which is why I practice a lot as Luna and Mantis. The downside of playing a strategist is that you will be hunted mercilessly by the rival team. Your main goal will be survival, and emotionally that is not easy when Spider-Man or Hulk keep launching at you every 30 seconds. I see a lot of people play Rocket in higher levels solely because of his resurrection ability through his BRB pylon and his infinite ammo team up with Punisher and Bucky, but his ult has little value at higher levels. Speaking of team-ups, I recommend using team-ups as often as you can for another advantage. Since I play Cloak and Dagger so often, there are a lot of Moon Knights on my teams because there is a great team-up ability between those two that greatly benefit Moon Knight. I guarantee you, however, that Bruce Banner will be banned in most matches, which is a shame because his team-up ability of Gamma Radiation with Doctor Strange and Iron Man is incredibly powerful, so try to go with that team-up if you can. Otherwise, I'm not too concerned about team-ups, as the need for us to play the correct character for the correct situation greatly outweigh worrying about team-ups. The only way you're going to get better at this game is to play ranked. Quick play is fine to learn the maps as well as how to control your character, but ranked is where you're really going to have your skills, patience, and mental focus put to the test. Even if you have to solo queue and you do not have teammates, continue to practice getting better on ranked. I found that once you get to diamond level, the match quality actually gets much better as the players are comfortable with their characters and know more about what they are doing, so the likelihood of having complete idiots on your team goes down a little bit once you get to the diamond level. That's mainly based on my experience, and it's just my opinion. But with that being said, I've also seen a diamond Spider-Man fighting on the front lines the whole time and dying over and over. So yes, there's still idiots who somehow climb to diamond level. Be patient and learn how you can play better and what you can control, and try not to allow yourself to get tilted and upset. Don't waste your time arguing and yelling at other players on your team. It's best to take a break if you are on a losing streak and come back to the game. Think about how you can become a better player, practice, improve your skills, and you will rank up. Now, some people say that the game rewards you for returning back after a break by matching you with better players with a higher probability of winning. I've seen no evidence of this, but I thought you would just like to know, since this is something that people are talking about in the community. Please give a like and subscribe, as I go live playing Marvel Rivals all the time here on YouTube, and would love to have you hang out with us and watch us as we compete. Finally, here are a few more advanced gameplay tips for you to think about. I know I mentioned ultimates earlier, but I really want to drive this point home about ultimates. The key to winning at higher level matches is to be able to counter or avoid ultimates. Strategist characters have great ultimates that can keep your team alive during other ultimates. Players like Doctor Strange and Captain America can shield against ultimates. The Magneto on my team uses his ultimate for the sole purpose of countering Cloak and Dagger's ultimate and eliminating her healing surface by taking her out right at the end of her ultimate. Communicate with your team about when you think a competitor player is going to use their ultimate and help you eliminate them before they cast their ultimate. There's nothing more satisfying than hearing someone cry out their ultimate and suddenly silenced because they were eliminated before it fired. Use your ultimate defensively if possible, because if the other team wastes their ultimates and you survive, then you can go on to push the advantage and win the fight. Ultimates are best used against players that have lower hit points like duelists and strategists. Vanguards tend to absorb a lot of the ultimate and will most likely survive, so it's best to make sure your ultimates bring the greatest value by targeting the rival team's backline if possible. Okay, here's another advanced tip: animation and reload cancels. There are ways to speed up attacks and reduce cooldowns in this game by using the mechanics of the game. For example, Captain America has animation cancellations that allow him to attack faster and more viciously. Look up videos about this. As a Cloak and Dagger main, I can cancel half my reload by switching to Cloak and back to Dagger instantly and back. There are no cooldowns for switching back and forth between Cloak and Dagger, so I'll be practicing this more often. I also map my switch to Cloak button on my controller with the dark teleportation ability so that I can quickly dodge ultimates or divers. Do some homework on the characters you want to play and see if there are any gameplay mechanics that give you any type of advantage. And for the love of God, stay in the line of sight of your strategists, aka your healers. As a strategist, I find it so frustrating when people engage in fights within small rooms off the edge of the map and I cannot heal them. Then they get eliminated and yell at me in the chat for not healing them. If you're playing as a Vanguard or Duelist and you want your chances of survival to increase tenfold, stay in the line of sight of your healers. If you find you're not getting healed, simply turn around and run back towards your healers and you will find that they are either dealing with a diver, respawning, or healing another player and just not aware that you need healing. A good Storm or Iron Man on my team will signal using the game communication that they need healing, as they are not often in my line of sight and I will miss healing them sometimes. My final tip is that in higher competitive levels, Diamond and above, you will get to choose which characters to ban. Don't bot ban Bruce Banner over and over again. Think about who the biggest threat to your team composition would be. For example, with my team, we struggle a lot with high-level Magic players, so we insta-ban her almost every match that we can. We also try to ban Loki as much as possible. You want to avoid a situation where you and the other team choose the same two players to ban. Let's say both teams choose Bruce Banner and Storm. Then you can certainly expect your back line would be tormented by Wolverine and Magic because both teams did not use any strategy when it came down to who to ban. If you work on these concepts, I promise you that you will climb the ranks much easier. Catch my live streams to see these concepts put into action. We'll see you next time.